Hi my friends, welcome back to your practice. Today's practice will be all about our neck and shoulders and something that hopefully you can come back to and get some relief from working on a device all day or maybe doing any sports or activities that are really upper body intensive. And maybe you're someone that really just carries a lot of stress in their upper body. I certainly am, in the neck and the shoulders. So maybe this class can be a self-care session for you to release some of that for a few moments. So today's class I'm using a can, or you could use a hand weight or a wrist weight, whatever you've got. You could also do this without a weight, but it'll increase the load for some of the rotator cuff strengthening that we're going to be doing. So I got a can of refried beans here, whatever you've got, grab it. And I am going to show with two thick yoga blocks, the foam yoga blocks. I'm going to show a lot of options with these. And I'm going to line them up to start so they're vertical, so my spine and head can rest on that. If you have just a few rolled up blankets, you can make the exact same prop, maybe 3 of them rolled up like that, and you can use that instead of blocks if you don't have blocks at your disposal. So let's land on that to start. And we're gonna aim ourselves onto this prop so that our head lands on it. And, you know, depending on how long your blanket is, it'll go different parts of your low spine depending on how tall you are. I'm gonna keep my feet planted for this. Now, if you're already feeling like this is uncomfortable in your lower back, you can lift up your hips and put a blanket or something else underneath your lower back. And if you're feeling like this is uncomfortable on your neck and your chin is really jutting up like that, you might wanna put a blanket underneath your head and just give yourself a little bit of a pillow support. So once you get comfy, let's press into our feet. And as we press into our feet, we can feel that the lower ribs at the back move a little closer to the floor. So we want to keep a little bit of that lower ribs down so we can access the upper ribs a little more. Then you can choose to either place your arms out into a T, so make sure you have space around you, or you can go for a bit more like a W. You could also go for a Y. You can explore these. The W with the elbows bent and a little lower down towards your hips. And you might feel that your shoulder blades are stuck up in elevation. So you can lift up your shoulders, your shoulder blades, and wiggle them down your back and see if that relieves a little discomfort that might be there. And take a moment. If this is too high for you on blocks, you could always switch to a blanket roll and make it a little softer. Another option is to move towards like a 90-degree bend at your elbows and have your elbows more straight out from your shoulders. And this is like a gold post position. So wherever you land, checking in, which knuckle is on the floor on both hands? Is it different? Can you get curious about orienting the same knuckle to touch? For me, it's the middle one. And then let's take a few breaths here. You're welcome to soften your eyes, even close them. And breathe all the way up into your upper lungs. Maybe it feels a little tight, a little restricted in there. Go gently into that upper part of your lungs and then exhale. And you might exhale a little longer than you do normally. So breathe up into your upper lungs. Let the expansion of your respiration stretch the tissue around your collarbones, around your pectoral area. And exhale long, smooth, and steady. Letting gravity do the work here. Again, inhaling. And if you only have time for just this shape, that's perfect. Pause at the top. Exhale, smooth and steady, exhaling everything out. Maybe you're exhaling out your worries and anxieties of the day. Maybe you can make an audible breath, an audible sigh if you like. Whatever you're carrying on your shoulders, you can let it go, let the earth take it for now. You can always pick it up again at the end of the practice. Sometimes we're caring for somebody and that's a lot of weight on our shoulders, but we don't want to let it go. And we don't have to let it go. We can let it be for a little bit. Okay, then we'll take our arms, our elbows in towards the midline so that your elbows are hovering above your shoulders. Straighten your arms out and open up your thumbs so your thumbs reach straight out like big hitchhiker thumbs, and then reach that over your head and see if you can get your thumbs to touch the ground at the same time. And then we'll bring them all the way back up so your hands are above your shoulders, and reach up over your head, press your low ribs down towards the floor as you do that, and see if you can get your thumbs to touch the ground at the same time. Almost. One more time. Third time's a charm. Reach up and over, press your low ribs down, aim the thumbs at the same time to touch. And then reach your arms up like you're decompressing the top of your shoulder. Elevate your shoulder blades and take a couple breaths in there. Breath in, breath out. Your breath in, full breath out. One more like that. Straighten your arms a little more, squeeze your biceps to the center, exhale. And then bend your elbows out to the sides and interlock your hands, palms facing down towards your head, and let your hands come a little towards the floor with your elbows bent, elbows out to the sides. And if you're feeling discomfort, you could try squeezing your elbows a little more in towards each other, so they're kind of hovering. And if you're not feeling discomfort there, you could aim your elbows wide, stretch out through the front of your chest, and maybe even aim your elbows towards the ground. And keep pressing into your feet a little so that your low back ribs can make contact down towards the earth. You can take another breath in there, making an O shape, and exhale everything out. Okay, we'll really soften those elbows, bring them in, and let your hands come to your abdomen. So the dismount from here, you can roll right off of your blocks and roll on up. So if you're having a block or a blanket, we're now gonna set it up so that you can use one block for this, so that the block is on its low level and it's, instead of vertical, it's horizontal or perpendicular to your spine. If you're using a blanket, just switch it up like that so it's more perpendicular to your spine. And then we'll roll back onto that so that our mid-back hits it, so kind of that mid-shoulder blade area or low shoulder blade area. And we're going to tuck our chin here and hold on to our head. So interlock your hands behind the back of your head. And then we'll inhale, go up and over the block. And you can widen your elbows here, or you can keep them close if that feels safer for you. And then exhale and curl in like you're doing an upper abdominal, so only your the tip of the block is touching your body. And then go up and over, getting some upper back extension in there, and then curl in. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to inch my seat away from the block, so I go a little higher up, like I'm trying to go one vertebra higher, and then go up and over and curl into that upper abdominal. See if you can get your only the edge of the block touching. Up and over and curl in, and then the little inchworm, go a little higher up and go up and over, either exploring elbows wide or elbows in. Curl in, up and over, and curl in. Let's go a little more up the spine towards the base of your neck. Up and over, and curl in. Up and over, and curl in. Maybe that last little bit. And if you're using the blanket, you know, maybe this feels quite a bit gentler than the block, but that's nice too. You can work into that upper back bend. With the block, you might be getting a little more of a massage. Okay, so I'm gonna hold on to my head with one hand, roll off, and when my neck feels safe there, use the other hand to press up. Now you could do that again and kind of inchworm your way up. Could feel really nice. Or move the block onto its medium height. So not on the high height. If you want to go on the high height, you could. But I'm going to go for the medium height. And then aim that for the lower shoulder blade area. Chin tuck, so strong front of the neck, hold onto the back of the head, your head. I'm gonna wiggle my shoulder blades a little down there, press into my feet, and then come up and over. Wow, so this is like a little bit more, a little bit more sensation for some of us, and curl up. So only that corner of the block is touching. So up and over, you can explore those wide elbows. And I'm also kind of pulling on the back of my neck here as you come in to traction, lengthen the back of my neck as I come into that back bend. So I can get my thumbs even curling around the knobby bits at the base of my skull and pull on that. And for me, that feels great. So you can explore that too and see, find that just right place for you. So now we can wiggle down the block and go up and over. And if you want, you could do a little side to side and get into the side body and the lats there, outer armpit and the intercostals in between the ribs, wiggle down, and you can go up and over, and then you might do a side bend, and I'm continually pulling on the back of my neck, pulling. Oh, come a little closer to the base of the neck, up and over, and then that side bend. Use your breath. Make any sounds you need to release and get into some of those sticky areas. And then you can come to the center. I'm going to keep one hand on my neck, put my forearm down to roll me over to the side, not super graceful dismount, and come off and then move that block. We're going to take that block now for our right temple. So roll right onto your side. Now if you had two blocks, you could take the other block in between your knees. And then I'm going to take my can, your weight, and hug it into the side. And I'm just gonna check that my wrist doesn't kind of flip back. So in this movement, I learned some of these movements from some physiotherapists of the Lit yoga method. So thankful for that. Just shout out to them. So now I'm gonna keep my left elbow by my side, and I'm gonna rotate the weight up. So if you're holding that weight and it already feels like a lot on your shoulder, do this without the weight to start. Okay, so do about 5 of them. You could do more or less, but the action is going to be to keep the elbow fairly close to your side and then slowly lift up your forearm towards like a 90 degree and go down. And so slow might just be the ticket here. And sometimes I notice I want to flip my wrist back to make the movement happen, to compensate for the movement. So I'm going to try not to do that. And I feel a lot of work there in my outer shoulder. So 2, go at your own pace. Breathe with it. 3. 4. And you might even squeeze the muscles in between your shoulder blades as you do that movement. Squeeze your shoulder blade a little closer to your spine if you want. And 5. And you can let that relax down and relax your shoulder. And we'll switch sides with that one. So I'm gonna, just so you can see me better, I'm gonna flip right over. You can turn over if you want. So one block or one blanket underneath your head. Other arm forwards. Plop down on your side and take the other block in between your knees. And then the elbow close in. And watch for that wrist flick. So we're going to keep the wrist pretty stable as we do that movement. So if you're already feeling like that's a lot, elbow close into the side, kind of working for that 90 degree, then do it without the weight to start. And when you come back to the session, you can always add in the weight and work with more strengthening that way. So we're about 3. You might be doing more or less than me. Slow movements. 4. And you might also feel a stretch at the front of your chest in this front of the shoulder region. Maybe one more. on that side. And you can release that weight down and let your arm rest and kind of rebound, melt into your shoulder there. And now we're going to turn onto our abdomen. So I'm just going to, again, flip myself over so you can see that. I'm going to turn onto our abdomen with the block right underneath our forehead, or you got a blanket underneath there. So we'll lift up towards a cobra shape here and slide our right arm across with the palm facing up. And if it's right up around your ear, kind of pull it down so it comes, you have a little more freedom in the right side of your neck. And then you can land down on that. And if you want, you can interlock your hands and kind of pull. You might even kind of traction out through your wrist. So pull like you're trying to decompress your wrist. Take a breath. Some folks might take that right shoulder, depress it down, take the left arm in front, and just have a mic there so I don't want to completely squash it, and then come up and over and crisscross your arms like that. So that's an option. Another way to intensify this is you can start by looking towards your outstretched bottom right arm. You can then move towards take your forehead to the prop, and then you can also try to take your left temple to the prop and look in the opposite direction. And if you're feeling like your back is really arching in this one, see if you can aim your sit bones to the backs of your knees and breathe into that. And we'll come on up and go for the other side. So you can use your left hand to support you to come up into that cobra back bend and then across with your left arm. So again, pull that shoulder down and choose to have your forehead, you're gazing towards your hand is a little softer, likely, or turning around and looking away. I just don't want to squash my mic too much there. You could also do the crisscross and have your right arm in front. You might wiggle yourself a little forwards there, over your shoulders. Or you can interlock those hands and pull and traction your wrist and press your pelvis down and aim your sit bones towards your heels. Let's take a couple more breaths into that. Okay, we'll come on up. And now we'll have an option to take our left arm out into a T, maybe towards a Y, and maybe towards a diamond shape, kind of framing your face. This is my favorite one. I feel like it targets the pectoral a little more. So you can try all of them, but the movement's going to be wherever you are to take your left temple to the block, left arm out, and roll, press into your right hand into the floor and roll onto your left hip. So you can stack your feet there, or you can lift your top right leg, bend it, aim the right knee to the ceiling, and tippy toe or plant your foot behind you. And if you're feeling a lot of back bend there, you can also aim your sit bones towards the backs of your knees. Okay, so I'm just gonna show you my favorite one. I feel like you can try all of them. Likely the Y is gonna give you a little more stretch. And then the diamond shape is going to give you a little more stretch through that pectoral region. Now, once you're in it, feel if your left shoulder is drooping towards the floor, and that might feel a little unstable for you. So if it is, and there's any pain or discomfort there, try lifting it a little away from the floor. Not a lot, but just a little, and see if that feels a bit more stable. And wherever you land, let's take a couple more breaths. Maybe you exhale out of your mouth and soften your eyes and jaw. Okay, let's roll it back onto our abdomen. And you can put your forehead down wherever your left arm is there. Bend the elbow a little more down towards your legs, both elbows perhaps, and rest for a moment with your head on the blanket or on the block. And let's switch sides. You can choose your right arm. Do you want it to be out like a T or a Y or a diamond, right temple to the ground? Push yourself over onto your right hip. Maybe lift your top left knee and tippy toe, or plant your foot behind you. So some subtleties in this one that might be supportive could be to lift your right shoulder a little away from the floor, sort of toning the front of your right shoulder a little, and see if that might give you a bit more support. And then breathing into whatever variation you've landed in. Maybe one side is quite different than the other. That's totally normal. You can utilize that long exhalation phase to calm your nervous system, perhaps. And that might be a good way to work with pain or discomfort that might be arising. When we can boost that parasympathetic with a longer exhalation, that can be effective for working with uncomfortable tissue and holding patterns. So we can roll back onto our abdomen, soften our elbows down, forehead to the blocker blanket. And then we'll transition. So we're going to transition right back to our first starting point. So we had either our blankets or our block. Roll ourselves onto that. And again, like I said, if this was the only shape that you landed in, that's great after a day of working on your device or doing anything that's upper body intensive. So then you could play again with what do you like to do? The T, the W, the more cactus arm position, maybe it's the O, the Y. You can choose there. And again, I'm planting my feet and pushing into them so that the hingy part of my spine, that low rib area, can drop towards the floor. And then wherever you are, if you can notice your knuckles on the ground, which knuckle is on the ground on both hands? And maybe your shoulder blades are kind of stuck up. You can wiggle side to side and pull them a little down. And sometimes I notice I want to go into a massive stretch, but if I soften it a little and go into a stretch that's kind of manageable to hold for a minute, then I might experience some more release and a little more letting go. So you can experiment with that. If you're holding on to your tissue a lot, gripping a lot, or if you can settle in a place where you feel like you can let gravity do the work a bit more. And let's take a few breaths here to close our practice. So nice breath in, full breath out. Now for the last couple breaths, you're welcome to do a straw breath. So you can inhale through your nose and exhale as if you're exhaling out of a straw for as long as you comfortably can. Maybe hang out on empty, and then a couple more breaths like that. Okay, so you might want to stay here a little longer if you're really dropped, or you could drop your elbows a bit down by your seat and take your hands to your abdomen. Roll right off of those blocks if you have them, or your blanket. And I'm just going to show you a landing shape that you could take. So now I'm going to take my blocks, if you have them, in a downward pointing V, and aim those for underneath my knees. So you can kind of wiggle them down, wiggle your seat up, so you might land those blocks underneath your knees. If you had a blanket, you could put the blanket underneath your upper legs, right below your seat, and see if that gives you a little relief in your low back. Then if your shoulders feel right up around your ears, you can wiggle a little side to side and let your shoulders slide down your back. And some people find it comfortable to have their hands on their abdomen, or you can also open up your hands and let your palms flip up and find a place where you can maybe rest in, pause in for a couple moments. You might close your eyes and let out a sigh or let out a breath. And acknowledge the work that you did today to make those choices for yourself that are supportive. And if you feel like you have a lot of stress on your shoulders right now, you're not alone. Moments, you can stay here for as long as you like. And if you're ready to close your practice, you might stretch out. Give yourself a wake-up stretch. If you've got those props underneath you, you can take them over to the side. Maybe roll over to one side. And take your time to come up to a seat whenever you're ready. And if you like, when you're in a seat, you can close your practice with a couple of sun breaths. So I like to circle out and up, noticing the movement in your shoulders and your upper back and your arms. As you inhale, circle up, and as you exhale, bring your hands down to your chest. Inhale, circle, exhale down through center. Thanks for being here today. I hope this practice is useful for you over and over again. May you have peace.